After my recent nitrous-fueled DMT trip, which launched me face first into the pits of hell, doomed to relive the same eternal loop of believing I was both myself and Quentin, circling, looping around my couch, saying the exact same thing over and over and over again, well, I did what any trying to become sane human would do, made my way quickly to the bathroom, and I dumped my entire DMT stash down the sink. I vowed that I was never going to touch either of the compounds again. It actually scared me so much that I was convinced that I either wasn't real or that I had died and I now was actually in some kind of a hell dimension. I ran to the trip sitter and I remember distinctly asking them to make sure I was alive. And I remember when they were checking my pulse to reassure me that yes, my heart was still beating, I couldn't help but think, well, of course, if I was trapped in an infinite loop of hell, that's what my watcher would say. They would want me to believe that I was alive so that I could feel all the torture for all of infinity. Going back downstairs and revisiting Quentin didn't really help, because he reminded me that I was just inside his head. It made me feel as though I wasn't allowed to talk about it, especially with him, and I had to forget it as quickly as possible, or else I was going to break reality. The simulation was going to hit error 404 and crash. It was really hard not to bring it up to him because him and I were experiencing telepathy. I mean, if you've seen the podcast that I did with him, then you would know that we were unwillingly inside each other's minds. Not only could I not speak about what I just experienced, but I was trying to tell myself not to think about it. Keep in mind, this was like 5 or 6 hours into a very intense acid trip. Before taking the DMT nitrous mix, I was completely calm and fine. The trip was over. I really didn't even have many visuals anymore. I lasted maybe 30 to 45 minutes before I had to take a trip killer. It did calm me down, and I was able to forget about it and move forward with the evening. Now, any normal person, not to toot my own insanity horn here. See, it doesn't even sound like a real horn. Any normal person probably would have banked on dumping the DMT to be for the best. But as you guys heard by my freaky horn sound, I'm not really a normal, sane person. Far from normal. I specifically started thinking about the fear I experienced, and if it really was warranted. One has to ask, just because I felt fear doesn't necessarily mean that that experience had to be scary. There's people out there who are afraid of spiders. Even the thought of a spider sends a chill up their spine. And then there's people like me who will just put their hand through a spider's web and not give a shit. What's the difference between those two people? The spiders are the constant. The difference is their interpretation of whatever that spider or web stands for in their own unique experience and their own perception of reality. So I quickly grabbed a hold of the notion that the loop doesn't have to be scary. Perhaps I've been programmed to find such a repetitive act frightening because I've been told that experiencing the exact same thing over and over and over again is essentially the definition of insanity. And perhaps I'm just afraid of the notion of going insane. Now, once I grabbed a hold of that idea, I couldn't shake it. I decided that regret would be a good word to use when speaking about dumping the DMT. So I quickly contacted a friend of mine who I knew had some DMT. He just had a tiny bit, just enough to allow me to revisit that space and rock and roll, baby. It was time to revisit that exact loop. This time, I decided that I was going to move into the discomfort and let it do its fucking thing without resistance. I prepared myself via continuing my daily meditation practice. I've been practicing mindfulness by following a daily guided meditation by Sam Harris. And I decided probably about a week after the terror happened, jump right back in. Now, I do have to advise anybody watching, what I'm explaining in terms of what I did to overcome the fear is the result of over 7 years of exploration and primarily doing it wrong. It's taken me 7 years to learn how to use psychedelics efficiently and safely. If any of you guys watching are new to this field of exploration, then if you have a frightening experience, frightening in the terms of an experience which made you have suicidal thoughts, which is what this experience injected me with, you should not revisit that experience. So I don't want to make this video and influence anybody to do something dangerous, because I'm somewhat of an anomaly. I've gained through my exploration the ability to really step outside of myself, to view whatever happens during a trip, not only from an objective stance, but also as very different from everyday reality. I've somehow gained the superpower to not let the two, truly crisscross. I don't cross those streams, man. I mean, of course, there's going to be a little bit of bleed through when you're dealing with fabric that's this thin, but it's to the point where I don't mind the bleed through. I'm okay with it. And it's taken me a while to get to this point of acceptance of my own unique journey through life. So if you're someone watching who doesn't have the same experience as I do, I can't stress this enough. Do not, I repeat, do not do what I did. Not if you value your life. Psychedelic-induced psychosis is a real fucking thing, and it can and sometimes does end in suicide. This is me putting on my serious face. Jokes aside, don't do this. I, at this point, am extremely experienced in these states, and I follow, of course, the utmost of safety with trip killers and trip sitters. I wouldn't be practicing psychedelic exploration any other way. Anyway, let's circle back around into this loop here and get back to the point of the story. So, decided I was going to recreate the experience. Was very nervous, not gonna lie. I began by first consuming a balloon to get the nitrous flowing through my blood. About 30 seconds after taking the balloon, I proceeded to consume 20 to 25 to 30, somewhere in that ballpark range of DMT, just enough to have not a breakthrough, but to definitely fall through that portal and watch as the aliens put on a show for me. It felt like I was in the presence of some very silly yet serious entities. I just brought to the forefront of my mind my recent meditation practice, where I've been focusing on just for 10 minutes at a time, following the guided meditation, of course, but remaining completely frozen in space still, attempting not to move a muscle, and to really just focus on the breath. And it really helped. Nothing too insightful happened, just watched some jesters put on a show. But immediately after I regained consciousness and was able to open my eyes, complete overlay of visuals on top of everyday reality. I mean, it doesn't really look like visuals are overlaying reality. It looks like reality is for once becoming real. Just think about that for a second. It's as if what you're normally looking at is the hallucination, and now the DMT has lifted the veil. That's when I knew it was my cue to hit the nitrous. It's time to induce the loop. So I grabbed the nitrous, filled the balloon up quick. As I was sucking the balloon in, keep in mind I'm in the DMT realm while I'm doing this, I began to forget where my lips ended and the balloon began. Ooh, that was freaky. As the balloon's drooping down, everything in my visual field began to melt. Like, just at the corners. Like, if you're looking at a box, it would just look like it was turning into a sad face. Like, it was going... And it was accompanied by this noise. Everything just went... It was so wacky. At this point, I'm out. Instantly, I felt like I was surrounded by this very loud chattering sound. I felt like well, first of all, it's extremely difficult and it feels cumbersome to try to translate the experience into words. But if I had to, I would say it felt like I was an electron rotating around a nucleus. It was both literally a loop and figuratively a loop because I felt as though I was going to be going around this nucleus for all of infinity. And I was just woo, woo, woo. Everything looked like almost also like a cell dividing, but it was like also the cell would divide and then spin and then come back together and then spin and then come back together. So I was like experiencing something like this. Completely aware that I am in a loop. And time felt like it stood still. It felt like I was in this for infinity. But not long after the experience began, I was able to align with the awareness, not the ego self, but what is aware of having thoughts. And that wasn't looping. It was fully capable of still communicating to me, whatever the fuck I was. And I was able to say to myself, as I'm this like cell trying to break apart, but getting sucked back in constantly, or this electron going, I was able to say, just breathe. Yeah, wow, this is really cool. Yeah, this is neat. So, we're here. All right, man. You did it. You're back at the loop. This time, however, we're just gonna take a deep breath. Inhale, exhale. Oh, yeah, I mean, this is really neat looking and all, but I do know it's gonna end. Yeah, this loop isn't forever. Nothing's forever. Just breathe through it. You'll be back before you know it. Just try to enjoy the ride. Having already been in the loop and experiencing it from a frightening perspective really helped because just because of the fact that I actually made it out before. So now I had that reference experience of knowing that the loop does end beyond just someone telling me, but actually knowing that it's going to end. It was a little jarring at first, but once I had this realization, I was, whatever the fuck I am, I'm just like, oh yeah, this is cool. Yeah, let's just be this for a little while. I mean, what's it going to hurt? What the fuck else choice do I have, right? Before I know it, my eyes are opening. I'm regaining consciousness. And it was almost as if the machine elves or the DMT aliens, whatever the hell you want to call them, rewarded my courage by filling my body to the brim with warmth. I immediately, upon gaining consciousness, felt the most warm and euphoric I want to say I've ever felt in my life. It actually teetered on becoming cold. Like, it was so warm. I got the sense that if it were to get any more warm, it would turn into freezing. If that makes any sense to you. And it was really cool. Man, it was just so relaxing. I felt like I was in some form of a metaphysical fucking hot tub. People talk about MDMA euphoria. Facing the infinite loop and deciding that you're going to just almost, enjoy it. And then coming out of that after, having a terrifying experience, like facing a fear head on. Oh man, I don't know if it's the brain that rewards the courage or if it was really just these aliens or whatever you want to call the DMT shit. But I felt so good, calm, comfortable. I just felt, like nothing could possibly be better. It was incredible. I'm sure other people who have, in a non-psychedelic way faced fears would probably say the same thing. Once you make it through it and you alter your perception of something previously believed to be terrifying, you not only realize how silly you were to be scared, but you're rewarded with just this sense of calm. It really is unremarkable. I mean, it really is remarkable. And I don't have anything else to say. Now, some people listening are probably thinking that I've lost my mind, or you might think that I'm being extremely unhealthy, and I shouldn't be exploring these altered states of consciousness, at least not at the frequency that you might interpret me to be exploring them at. Keep in mind, these are videos, and the timelines aren't always as clear for you guys because you don't know when the video was filmed versus yada, yada, yada. Now, I would say to you that I'm doing fantastic. It's this common misconception that when people are exploring psychedelics, that it's an indication of them losing the mind is kind of the key, but an indication of their life transitioning into a darker place. Now, while that is possible, and I have experienced that route before, this current path that I've decided to start following is nothing of the sort. In fact, things are coming together in a way that they have never come together before. And I'm so grateful just to be on this journey and to be able to share it with you guys. I mean, it's amazing. I feel like I have somehow injected purpose, not only back into my life, but back into this channel. Yeah. If you want to be worried about me, go ahead and expel the energy. If you think I'm going insane, then yeah, you're probably right. But I would argue that it's not a bad thing. It's good to drop the perceptions of good versus bad and just observe what's going on from a neutral standpoint. You'll probably have a much better experience being alive. Trust me on that one. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you hit it with a big thumbs up. Make sure you check out our Patreon, all you guys that are going to pop up here. I appreciate and love you all. Head on over to psychedsubstance.shop and one second. And pre-order for yourself the hooded blankets. Now the first round has already sold out, and it's only a matter of time till the second round sells out because, yeah, I mean, you guys probably recognize just how fucking awesome this thing is. It is so soft and comfy. I love the mitts. I've already said this before. But yeah, if you want to get your own hooded trip blanket for festivals or what have you, head on over to psychedsubstance.shop, pre-order that shit, and I will see you guys all in the next video.